Welcome to SheExperts, Breaking Barriers Through Sports. This is a series of the ITK podcast, Experts in Global Sports, Voices of Change. Listen to unshared knowledge, projects, experiences and stories of the ITK women in sports. Maybe we can start our little talk about the ITK women and the two of you. The two of you left of our South really. American group. Maybe, Ximena, you can start with presenting yourself, just a little personal, what you're doing, where you're living, what is your sport.
Okay, well, nice to meet you all. I'm Ximena Choy. I'm ITK ambassador from Peru. I live in Lima, capital of Peru. I did ITK 207, something like that, for strength and conditioning. Not really no sport, but all of the sports. I've been involved really strongly in rugby. I played for a national team like 10 years, and I've been like national coach, also for football national team, professional volleyball and athletics. That's where I did my minor on athletics in Cuba, and the International School of Physical Education and Sports. There's like also a program that used to exist like several years ago. Well, now I'm doing mainly sport management for the government, for a public institution. Right now, I did like some youth, also social projects, everything like related to social projects, and some consulting and some like high performance a little bit, just to be always close to sport because we love it. That's pretty much me.
And Ayelen, you go.
Okay, hello, my name is Ayelen. I am from Argentina, from Buenos Aires, the capital city of Argentina too. I am an artistic gymnastics trainer, and I did my ITK course in 2014, the winter of 2014. Nowadays, I am working with training of artistic gymnastics, women artistic gymnastics. I am also an international women artistic gymnastics judge, and I work also with future PE teachers in the area of gymnastics as well. So all my life turns around gymnastics. It's there, and I've been also working in the ITK Argentina Association here in Buenos Aires, and we have been developing sports here in our country.
Wow, so you're both doing a lot of like work in sport, and you all both took part in the ITK Changemaker project. Maybe you could explain a bit about your motivation for taking part in this project, or in general for working for women in sports.
Okay, so I think it's like pretty much the same. The answer is like the project, and women in sport is like try to, I don't know, help and do stuff and develop projects. Just like at some points get to like equality and equity. Because like in English mainly equity, in Spanish like more equality, and the term is like trying to be in the same conditions to practice sport and communication and coaching and getting into positions like for athletes. And for everybody. Actually, my project is related. The project I presented to ITK last year was related to an academical project related to politics for gender in sport. Actually, in that area, we are like really behind in Latin America. If you like check the numbers in Europe and North America, they are not as good as they should be, like equal. But here in Latin America, it's like really hard. Every woman, every little girl. Every actually young woman like starting to develop a career struggles a lot more than the same age and positional level men related. So that's the motivation. We've been our generation, my generation, is like a little bit. Well, I'm a little bit older than you. It's like it was really also harder, but still we still have the same issues. Sometimes like I'm amazed by the problems I can see with women coaches, with women athletes, and the gap we still have. Sure.
Okay, my motivation for ITK Changemaker, the first thing was to take part and not waiting for things to happen, and then to meet other women that are working with sports and with um, with this area of working with these things all around the world, and this networking that we are building together and making us stronger, and all these moments of discussions and learning and talking with people around the world. Particularly my project has to do with gymnastics, of course. I am nowadays working at the federation, at the National Federation for Gymnastics, and we have been working on human rights and prevention of abuse and violence in sports. And it's something that is, I mean, it has been happening for a long time, and it's something a little bit new that every sport federation is taking part and getting involved in these areas and trying to avoid and prevent things to happen. It is something that it takes lots of time because it has to do with changing the way sports are practiced, and the way we are used to listening things from the coaches, and the way we issue our everyday life. But I think that in the long time it will be worth it, or at least I trust that that's our aim.
Yeah, I definitely hope so. Ximena?
Yeah, no, it's really interesting because it's like it's a lot about what actually I just talk about. It's about networking, about inspiration. It's like we get together with like, women in Africa, Latin America, and like all around the world, and they are doing like this amazing project like Ashe, or I don't know, maybe you can check out the Desire program. It's really talking about how women are not being able to practice sport because they don't have enough resources to have like health basic security needs covered. So this is a little bit about that, and a lot about that, also about getting together, learn, get inspired by this amazing woman, and to have these spaces for everybody in the world get to know them a little bit better. And if like we are together, it's like making a bigger, stronger point in that area. And also trying to change. I think was I should talking a little bit about stereotypes and women roles and those stuff that are really, really hard to change, and that's what we're trying to work on every day. I think a little bit.
I think that for me it was very inspiring to get to know other women working and to know their realities. For me, it was one of the most important things. There may be things that we take into granted that they will happen or that they are normal for us, but maybe it has to do with fights that have been won, we could say, from other women here in our countries, but they have not yet been won in other countries. So they have not been fought, or things that we take into granted that they will be normal. Like I had this thing with homosexuality that in our country it has been. It is like completely normal. It is legal. It is perfectly normal. It's an everyday thing. But I know that other countries have been talking about this with other women, and they said it was like something very tough, very difficult, an issue very difficult to talk about in their countries, and about, I don't know, like the way the people dress, what rights they have, if they can drive, they cannot drive, if they can go into leading positions or not, if they can even practice sports for being women. And here in our countries, here at least I will speak for Argentina, that a girl practices sport is very normal. Then we can speak about which sports they practice. That's another issue to talk about. But it is normal for a girl to practice sports. And there are countries where it is not normal and it's not well seen that they do sports.
How is the situation in Peru for girls in sports?
Yeah, it's pretty much it's actually different from Argentina. I think Argentina has this like really all culture related to gender and diversity support and organization as a society. They have these social movements. They are really strong, and I really respect and admire that from Argentina. Here in Peru, it's a little bit like different, and we need to think in Peru and in some other countries and probably everywhere about this intersectionality view. It's not only if you're a woman, it's if you are like if you have money or not, if you're rich or if you're poor, or where are you in that change. Also, if you are, I don't know, a white woman, an indigenous woman, a black woman, all those things start to affect how are you going to be able to access and use the service and use like being able to practice sport, at least here in Peru. That's the case, I think, a little bit everywhere, you know. So here, girls and women, unless you practice some sports, they are like okay will be when you have a lot of support. You're going to be able to practice, you know, for fun, and that's it, a little bit. But after that, it's going to be an issue. You're not, everybody's like you know, stereotypes again. It's no worldview and stuff like that. And also there's another thing that we talk a lot about in gender studies is about how the resources and the times and the roles affect your ability to have time, spare time, for yourself. You know, if you're a woman, you're a little girl, you're in a family, you have a daughter and a son. It's like the girls, so we have to stay at home to help the mom with the kids, with a house, you know, stuff to do, to I don't know, cook and do the laundry and cleaning and stuff like that. So it's always the situation in general is always better for men, for boys, than for women. That's the case. Maybe you practice some sports. Maybe here in Peru you practice volleyball. Okay, the family's gonna support. Here volleyball is like football for girls because they have a lot of support. The girls can like achieve I don't know, some position, some professional career, and some money related to that. So you're gonna get a lot of support. Beside that, everything is gonna be a little bit harder for women most of the time.
You just talked, or you both of you just talked about challenges that women face in sports, and speaking about intersectional identities. Do you have some personal experiences, or like bad or good experiences that you had yourself that you want to share?
Actually, you go. You turn
You
on
go,
your
you
mic.
go. I'm thinking. I need a
Okay.
little time to think about it.
Okay, I have a lot in mind, like good and bad. So there's like to the balance over there. I start with the bad ones. It happens to me like I work in a club, a really like important club, sports club here in Peru, not names, and it's like we have this like I don't know, tests and screening and evaluations and monitoring and stuff. And I was like one of the best, if not the best. Like sorry for the ego bust, but I was one of the best coach in the whole thing. We were like 200 coaches and stuff like that, and I was making maybe I don't know, the 20% or 15 the salary that some of the guys, and I was the best rated coach in the whole thing, for example. So I don't know. It was like it was pretty. It was really interesting for me at the point. I was okay. It is what it is. Now it's not so much. At some point, I quit that job. It was like a little bit painful because a really important place to be working at, but it is not fair. Okay, if I'm like really objectively one of the best coaches here rated, there are a lot of guys that are not. They don't even pass some of the tests, and they are not working as well as we are, and giving the results. How is like I'm making not like 10% less, like I'm making I don't know, ridiculously less amount of money than them. I don't do my job for money. I love what I do, but it's like it's not what it's supposed to be. Like I'm doing the same job, maybe more than the guys, and I'm making a lot less money. So it's one of the not as good experience it should be. And it's also thinking about women's career, like important to talk about it, because we say, okay, it's okay, we have to do more, we have to make less money. uh, at some point we normalized those thoughts and this like stereotypes. It's not fair, because it happens to us, then we're a little bit very conditioned that other women, it happens to everybody, and they're normalized too, and they don't make it even enough money to survive. So that was a really it wasn't like a niche at some point. It was like just like transversal, but that's one of my experience about one. A good one, just like short one. I'm a World Rugby educator, so I train coaches, and also a World Rugby trainer. So I train coaches to train coaches, something like that. I was the first woman to be an educator here in South America. So I was the first woman training coaches, and also I was the first woman to be a trainer, to train coaches to train coaches. I don't know if I'm the only one. I think there are a lot of more, a couple more now. We are not that many in South America. There are like I don't know, 18 or 20 trainers in the whole region. I'm the only Peruvian, so that's a good experience for me. That was a good experience for me. It was a challenging experience because during the process I was the only woman, so I had these like big meetings with like 20 I don't know, Argentinians, Uruguayan rugby coaches, like mainly rugby, what it's about. It was like really interesting, and it was really challenging, but it's really good. And that started to open doors. There are a lot of women educators now, like I don't know, dozens. So that's a really really good experience for me, to being able to start to breaking those barriers. Now, Ash.
I was thinking about my personal life. I work in a sport which is for women and made by women. So we have, of course, we have male coaches. There are many of male coaches, but it is like I don't feel this. It's like the opposite to rugby. What Ximena was saying. So there are we are mostly women in my sports, and we work with women or with young girls. So I don't feel this difference between male and women. Of course, sometimes we have this difference about which are our main areas of work. Like normally when we have male coaches, they are the ones who do more things about strength conditioning and strength, because we have to take care of our kids and we have to hold them in the air and like grab them and catch them. And normally these things, they are made by men because normally they have more strength, but it's not something that is that it's imposed. I mean, there are the best coaches we have here in Argentina are women. So it's like I say I live in this kind of bubble because I work only with women and for women. So the most important roles are also done by women. But then that is like women artistic gymnastics, but we have the whole 8 brands of gymnastics, and there we have also male gymnastics and other parkour or acrobatics or whatever. And there in the whole federation, we have lots of men, that the president is a male and the vice president is a male and the secretary is male. So we have, like I always say, that they are trying for us to change things, but in the top area of the federation, they are not doing this change. And so it's a little bit paradoxic because they are saying something, but they are doing the opposite. But I guess it takes time. It's just a little bit more of time. Here in Argentina, there's a law that says that in these kind of organizations, half of the leading places have to be occupied by women and half by men, or at least there's like a percentage of women that have to be there. It takes time, but I think we are going on the correct path, or I guess so.
Yeah, I think having these quotas to say that there have to be 30% women is a good step to improve the situation quickly. Because if you have to, then you also find women who will do the job and who will do the job good. Yeah, and your stories show that it really depends on in which sport you are and also in which position. Like if can be that there are only female coaches, but in the higher positions of the federation there are only men. So yeah, that's interesting. Um, you're both working also in projects to support women or girls in sport. Maybe you can talk a bit more about these projects that you're working in.
Sure, I start. Just like right by speed. My project, the one I present for ITK, it's like I do different stuff. As you can see, one of them is like this academical project. It's like related to gender in sports politics. This is my master thesis also that I'm about to present, hopefully. Is trying to check and doing this academic review on how is all this gender issue and women uh, gap, I don't know, treated and I don't know, check in the sport politics here in Peru. For my master's, we did like a lot of research, a lot of interviews with athletes and with coaches, with I don't know, people in charge, in political charge, and stuff like that. I also check the international, I don't know, politics related too. So I check Argentina and Uruguay and Colombia and Chile and how is the situation here in Latin America. This is my academical project, and I hope we will release it like by the I don't know first month of the next year. The interesting thing about that is like as we expected, it's like really at least in Peru, it was like almost zero. They just like last month changed the sport politics here in Peru, which also really it's really new, and also a lot of people is starting to talk about it. A lot of are not agree. I just read. I have my opinions, but and they barely mention gender stuff. They say, "Oh, this is one of the things we have to consider it like as a transverse stuff." But they don't develop the idea. They don't develop, I don't know, actions. They don't develop projects. They don't support it by money. Or we don't have budget for women like stuff in sports. So it's in the paper a little bit now, but it's not in reality at all. And it happens a lot in all the countries in Latin America. I check the paper, I check the politics, I check with some coaches I'm from different countries, and it's okay. For example, Uruguayan law of sports, they have it's really well done in the paper. Some of the stuff about gender are really interesting with like specific action stuff like that. I talked to some of my friends there that are important coaches there and say, oh, it was really nice in the paper, but they're really doing nothing here the last past years. So I think it's important talking about politics. Maybe for some people it's a little bit boring, but the thing is like everything depends a little bit on that. Every budget, for sometimes even for federations, for most of the federations have like public support. The clubs need, and we need the regulations to take actions related to that. So I think it's important we start talking a little bit more about politics and how they should change and support women in gender and sport equality. That's my master. And in the other hand, I work social projects for public institution, and that's been really interesting the past years because I have the like to be involved in the design of the project. So we are always trying to do and develop as okay transversal. I don't know theme gender, but also take little steps in actions related to women. You know, like some sports are not used to be practiced for women. Now we try to move forward, doing some like small conference, like trying to push women through sports, and also having this time for role models, like they're in like different sports, trying to give them some space for communication and develop these spaces. That's what I used to my. That's what I do my daily life. now thinking in a new project, but like, I don't know, soon to release.
You're always thinking about new projects, Ximena. It's something you cannot stop doing. I really admire you. Um, okay, I am working on the federation, and of course, working is a word very complicated because it's ad honorem working. I mean, it's a volunteer working, so it takes lots of time for us because it's something we do that it's not our formal work, but our volunteer work, and it's only because we want to and because we believe in this project. So sometimes it is very hard to meet with each other. Everything that's volunteer takes more time. We are trying to be aware of what's happening in the whole country. Argentina is a very huge country. It has 45 million people, and of course, they are not everybody practicing gymnastics, of course, but it's one of the biggest federations in the country. So just trying to know what is happening in every federation or in every province, it takes lots of time. We are working on prevention of violence, abuse, and psychological abuse or sexual abuse, and we have already developed. I don't know the word in English, but yeah, it's kind of like a path or what to do in case of some violence, or who to call, who to reach, who to write to, what is the legal process we as a federation must do to be together with the victim and to help them and to take care of them. And we're also trying to make a structure that works for us because, as I said, we need to reach lots of people, and we can only do that if we have someone that's helping us in each province or in each local federation, so that we can get in touch with the people who are having problems. Nowadays, we have also this question that I think it will reach every sport that has to do with transgender people, or at least we have like women artistic gymnastics and male artistic gymnastics, and there are some women that they feel like men and they want to compete as men, or the other way around. And we are starting to have all these talks with specialists about what to do. Or we had also like this situation of a judge that she was he was born man, now she's a woman, and here in Argentina, it is legal to change your documents and to change gender. So nowadays, legally, she's a woman, and we have to make like the change of identity not only in Argentina but also in the international federation. And all these things take time, and they need people talking about it. And and there are things that are going to start, they will happen to us because it's something that's happening. So all these things that have to do with the situations that we are leading with, that have to do with equality and gender equality, are the things we're trying to talk in our meetings and trying to be aware of them and having the tools to help the people involved.
Thank you so much, both of you, to share your interesting projects. And I think it's important to emphasize again that, like it shows your project, Ayelen, that it's not only about women, but also like people who are transgender and intersexual and all the other intersectional identities. I think we start with speaking about women, but we shouldn't forget that it's not only about women, and there's so much more to do. Maybe to finish this talk, you can tell me is there something that you would recommend maybe your younger self, or thinking about young girls or maybe kids in general? Maybe something that you wished you would have knew when you were a child in sports?
Those are two different questions, actually. One to yourself and one to the other, to your younger self. So I'm gonna, really quickly, my younger self. Actually, I I was very lucky as a child and as a young woman, because I had a lot of support from my family. I had a lot of support from my environment. I grew up in a really, really nice school, so it was really, really healthy, really good for me, like gender related. The only thing that I will tell myself is that I should start to take actions a little bit sooner, because I was so lucky. So I was really young. I said, "Oh, yeah, there's discrimination, but it's not that bad." And as you grow up and you start to see around beyond your little walls and your little bubble, it's really bad. For some people, it's really bad. So if you can do something to help, I recommended myself as my younger self to start earlier, to involve in gender and diversity topics, and trying to do a little bit in that area. And for every women's and little women's and young girls and stuff, and and diversity people, is there's just I don't know, a lot of challenge to go through, and the only advice, go through them, don't stop. And also, we are together. We are a lot of women involving now in sports, involving now in this a small fight in gender equality for sports and diversity. So if you need help, if you want help, if you don't know what to do, just you can reach any of us. You can reach a lot of organizations, a lot of women. They are involved now in this fight, and yeah, I think it's really important for them to know they have support, they have tools, and I don't know, they can do it. I have the to work and be involved with a lot of women who had those really, really hard situations and struggles, and women and people from the diversity and LGBTIQ community. And we are all together, and I think that's important for us to be together and to keep fighting.
Okay, it is a tough question. I think I will go something similar to what Hima said. I was lucky with my growing up. I practiced the sport I wanted in the environment, in a very healthy environment. I guess that's something that has motivated me to go through, to keep up with the fight, or with the trying to make everybody feel comfortable. I think I would tell my younger me that future, it's I think it's challenging, but it's or at least I think about 30 years ago or 25 years ago, um, things about gender equality were not spoken, and I was not aware of a lot of things that, or a lot of rights that we have, and a lot of things that have happened, and the importance of being a woman in this world, and that women are not only to wash dishes and stay at home and raise their kids. So I would tell her that you can do whatever you want in your life. You can go for your dreams, and you can study what you want. Of course, it was a little bit for me. I was the best average in my secondary school. I was always I had the best marks at school. And when I told my family and my friends that I would go and study sports, many of them had told me "Oh no, why are you studying sports? That's something you won't be you won't win lots of money, and it's something that it's so easy for you," because they thought it was you need to be, I don't know, mathematician or doctor or physicist or something like that, because you're so intelligent. Um, and I had a little bit of struggle. Luckily, my parents were totally, supportive with my idea, and they saw that it was what I loved. But in this moment, telling them, yes, it is very important for women to be in sports. It is crucial for us to be here if we want a better future. So I guess I would tell her, like, keep up with your dreams, enjoy your sport, and think that you will be a strong woman when you are older. Um, and your dreams will take you where you want, because I have always chosen my path, and I have always been happy with what I chose, and I have like traveled around the world with sports and around my country, and I've met wonderful people all around the world, and I've had beautiful projects, um and that I think that has to do with that is what I because I do what I love, because I would have been perhaps a physicist, but I wouldn't have enjoyed it. I don't know. So it's like, keep up with your passion, that will take you far.
Wow. Thank you so much to both of you. It was very inspiring words for the end. I hope you enjoyed it as well a bit. And thank you so much.
Love it.
Yes, of course.
We can do more of this in the future. Thank you for listening to this episode of SheExperts, Breaking Barriers Through Sports, a podcast of the international trainer course, Experts in Global Sports. If you feel addressed by what has been said, if you might have similar projects or ideas or experiences, if you have any resources to support the woman I spoke to, any ideas, funds, knowledge or skills, or if you just liked listening to this podcast, get in touch with ITK Women on Instagram and Facebook and be part of the community. You, me, us must protect women's rights and bodies. Together, we break all barriers through sports. It starts with us and with you.